Thank you, Acting President. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this bill, the Children, Youth and Families Amendment Supporting Stable and Strong Families Bill 2025. We sometimes see that in the names or the titles of bills. It can be a bit political, but certainly when it comes to supporting strong and stable families, that's an aspiration that I do support. The purpose of the scheme is to promote a whole-of-government approach to supporting vulnerable children in the child protection system, their families and care leavers, and it gives government departments shared responsibility for people in the child protection system, requiring them to plan for and report to Parliament on how their respective portfolios will improve outcomes. Now, I just want to highlight, how important it is for kids to get a good start in life, and we know that not all kids get a very good start at all. And time spent with kids is so important. Connecting with different generations is so important. We've seen the evidence. It does result in better health outcomes, better educational outcomes, and better opportunities in life. But for some, that's not the trajectory. They don't have a great start in life, and they can end up in out-of-home care. And I do want to recognise the work of many people in our community who are doing their best to give young people the best opportunities. I know that around Bendigo there's many groups organising breakfasts at primary schools because there are kids that do turn up to school with no food. There's chaplains doing amazing work, and I remember going to the Kyabram. They had their annual chaplaincy dinner last year, and Liz Spicer, who's been working as a chaplain for so many years, we heard directly from kids that have really felt the benefits of that program, being able to meet together and share a meal together. Just today I was talking to a guy, Brock, who's doing some volunteer work in Bendigo with the Street Peace program, and they're working with disengaged youth around Bendigo, and they often meet in Bendigo Mall. And they've had some really great outcomes where they have worked closely with young people, and in one case there was someone that went into the reject shop and they stole some goods. They picked that up, educated the young person, spoke with them, and they ended up going back to the reject shop, apologising and returning the goods. So this is some of the work that's being done by volunteers. I've met with schools, I've been to schools where some support workers, they're focused on well-being. They told me about the significant issues and challenges that they're facing in schools today that they have not seen previously. And there are kids that are homeless that are attending school, and these are the types of challenges that they're facing. I've also met with foster carers who have told me about the challenges that they face and also the rewards that they face in being able to support kids who need that. And Victoria clearly lags behind other states like New South Wales that has increased the funding and support for foster carers, because there are significant costs involved, particularly in regional areas. There's long distances to travel to appointments. Some of these kids have very complex needs, and there are additional costs incurred with that and additional attention and support and services required. But right now in Victoria we have more people leaving the foster care system rather than coming in to assist. And I think that's something that we do really need to pay attention to, because when the foster care support is not available, that's where residential care can come into play. And we know the statistics are very grim. And I met with a young woman who grew up in residential care, and she talked about the direct impact that it had on her life and on people that she knew, and the terrible end result for a number of them because of what they'd experienced in that environment. And we have read and heard news reports that are simply horrific, and the needs are high. Yet it's quite astounding, given the challenges that we face and given the cost pressures that families are under, that the government took the decision to cut Parent Line last year. They cut funding for that program, and now Victoria is the only state without a parent support line, a dedicated service. And recently, I know Nicole Werner highlighted on her very engaging social media, I encourage you to check it out if you haven't, but she highlighted that a federal Labor member had actually sent out a list of phone numbers and included Parent Line amongst them, which is quite extraordinary. But the Liberals and Nationals have made it clear that we will restore funding to Parent Line if we're elected in November, because it's so important that small problems don't become big issues. And giving kids the best start in life should be something that we all take an interest in. Many volunteers work in this space to help make a difference. But this bill is really focused on progress plans and reports, annual reviews, on department staff working together. And of course, we do support more transparency and improved outcomes because it's desperately needed in this state. But what's not clear from this bill is whether spreading that responsibility rather than the child protection portfolio will result in better outcomes. There's no enforceable obligations, and stakeholders were not sure if the plans and reports would lead to real change and clear accountability and proper funding. And stakeholders also raised concerns about inadequate consultation, which is very relevant given the committee inquiry report that was tabled in this chamber today about this government's failure to consult with the community, and that was reflected in the feedback received on this bill as well. Now, I know Ms Crozier highlighted in her contribution today the harm and abuse and exploitation that continues to occur under this current government of young children. There's been impacts from drug trafficking, there's been sexual exploitation and rape, suicide. And when it comes to the most vulnerable in our society, I think about these kids trapped in a system that is failing to protect them. And as Ms Crozier said, 600 kids in state care went missing last year. Now, I do recognise that there are people actively working in our community, professionals and volunteers, who are doing what they can to help make a difference to this system, and I certainly want to acknowledge their work and their dedication to helping others. But the number of reports are escalating, and we need to reverse this trend because every report does reflect a unique and a personal story. It takes a village to raise a child, we hear that often, but we are all part of that village, and an important role as MPs is to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves and who don't have a voice. This bill, as Ms Crozier said, is a plan for a plan when these kids need practical support and action. Thank you, Acting President.